Hey chat. Today we're going to be continuing with our run of Doom 64 Ascension, and we're going to be watching a review of a panel by Foodshops. The panel topic was on transmedicalism and Brianna Wu, and the title of the video that Foodshops published is Transmedicalism: How Not to Debate Against It. I don't know if this is actually going to be good content or not, but I was watching it anyway, and I felt I might as well play Doom, because it's a pretty cancerous panel, to be honest. So yeah, you're all watching it with me now. Congratulations. So yeah, we're just going to jump right in. And I'm sure we'll have plenty to say as things come up.
A cringe compilation, okay? Cringe compilation.
Right,
guys, we're about to watch a cringe compilation, okay? Cringe compilation. Guys, SJW, cringe compilation, okay? Guys, I know I said I said I don't want to be a gamer gay crap. It's so bad.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
It's so bad. Guys, okay, here's what I'm gonna say. Here's what I'm gonna say. Okay,
free range.
As the number one, okay, as the number one in this entire space. Okay, number one. Okay, all right, get ready. So I want to show you guys. Okay, I want to show you guys this. Okay, as the number one. Okay, there's two. You can actually formulate anti-transmedicalism arguments in a good way. You can formulate transmedicalism arguments in a good way, but holy do people do it in a terrible way, okay? Holy do most people do it in a terrible way, okay? 90% of people who formulate anti-transmedicalist arguments are terrible at it. They are terrible at it. But the rare 10% is actually such a treat, because I actually pray for the rare 10% to show up. I pray for the rare 10% to show up, because these people are legendary, okay? These people actually represent. These people can actually make a good point, okay? And know where to argue from, and know where to make a good point against the people who gatekeep these kinds of things, okay? And I'll show you where, okay? I'll show you fucking where, all right? So,
do it.
The two people I would probably consider to be the best anti-transmedicalist debaters, okay?
It's me.
Is one, Rose, okay? Is Rose. Okay, yeah, no problem, table, good night. So, is Rose and Yoon, okay? Rose and Yoon, okay? These two people are pretty damn good debaters when it comes to anti-transmedicalist arguments, okay? From what I remember. But we're gonna rewatch what they say, okay? We're gonna rewatch what they say. But first, I want to show you terrible ass anti-transmedicalist arguments. Rose Mullet? No, this is, God, who is this motherfucker? Rose as in Rose Wrist? No, this is not Rose Wrist. This is, Estradiol Rose? Rose, no, this is not Rose Wrist. It's not Rose Wrist, bloody hell. This is like a rose that actually touches grass and lives in real life. So you know they're gonna make a good argument because they touch grass, okay?
That is not how that works.
Automatically by touching grass, they can make better arguments, okay? Jesus.
No.
Okay.
Well, there's the problem that, like, gay and lesbian have always been the priority.
Okay, that really depends on what you mean by good arguments. That is, there are a lot of people who touch grass who cannot make a good argument. People are not, like, ordained by participating in society to, like, formulate arguments that are sound. That's not how that works. Unless you're just saying, like, they're relatable. They're like, they're rhetorically effective, and even that's not the case necessarily.
in the LGBTQ
God, this is such a
movement,
good-ass
so
panel.
most of
Damn.
the attention and effort and energy has gone toward them, and we've been passed over as the T has been passed over substantially quite a bit until very recently. And so it's been something that's talked about. Is like, hey, why doesn't the T why don't we kind of just do our own thing and advocate for ourselves, because we keep getting deprioritized, right? So there's definitely arguments for that. But overall, like, coalition building is a good thing to do. Yes. I don't think that we want to like single people out
grew
or
up so
anything
fast.
like that.
You weren't
I
even
think
there,
what
Silver
I
King.
hear people saying, particularly Brianna Wu was saying, is that this kind of stuff is just not really winning us the
God
attention
damn. So many people
of
were on this panel.
legislators
Holy shit.
and politicians. But these other things that we have
Never
here, we
again.
have
Holy
scientific
crap.
grounding for, and we can argue for, and so we can present them with
Let's roll
that,
move
and that
movie,
is actually getting traction. And we really need to prioritize and put energy into that.
Wasn't that the argument during
Sonia,
Stonewall? The exact same one?
Is the science getting
Friend
us
of the stream, Lucy Hazet.
anywhere?
Emmanuel,
Yeah.
before you go there, I just have to pop out. Foodshops, thank you for having me. Everyone subscribe to Two Guys
no
Talking
problem.
History.
Hey,
Have a good
yeah,
evening.
no problem.
of
Shout
course.
yourself
Yeah,
out.
I
Thank you
was
so much
also
for
talking
time.
about-
I'm sorry.
Good night.
Sorry, I'm just I'm beaming a little bit.
About the I want to respond to your previous question, the strength in numbers thing. That argument just falls on its face because it doesn't ask at what cost. Okay, you're talking about diluting the entire meaning of this category.
God
of
damn,
an
this was so
experience and
good.
basically discarding it.
This
and
panel
saying
looks like
that,
cancer.
oh, well,
Diluting. You are diluting the purity of the trans category by accepting non-binary people. Very nice.
So
identify
good.
as a fucking frog or something.
Way to not sound like Voldemort.
You get as much say in trans issues as anyone else. You can speak for us. You can you can.
Somebody
advocate for us.
identifying as a non-binary identity doesn't diminish the experience of binary trans people.
Whoa. She didn't say diminish the experience. She said dilute. You're diluting the purity.
How-
Well, hold on. Wait,
No, there's
Jenny
two
wasn't
different
finished.
things.
Hold on, Jenny wasn't finished. I want to hear what you were going to say with the
It
rest of that.
absolutely does. It conflates our experience with some. Even if I accept that it is a real thing, it's conflating what I go through as somebody who takes hormones, who's medically transitioning, who is trying to assimilate into the opposite sex as much as possible.
Are you
as
non-binary?
Dysphoria. And no, I'm not non-binary.
If you're not non-binary, then it doesn't. It's that simple.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Isn't that
When you make a debate, when you debate, okay, don't refer to your own identity politics. It's just not a strong point, okay? I probably shouldn't be saying this, okay, but it's typically not a strong point.
Okay, that's not the argument. Not the argument that person was making. They were saying that they weren't invoking their identity as like an idpol argument. They were saying that if you're not non-binary, then someone else being non-binary doesn't diminish your experience or doesn't take away from the validity of your gender in any way. If anything, it's an anti-idpol argument. Simply invoking identity in an argument is not necessarily like a quote-unquote idpol argument. Foodshops is misunderstanding what they're saying here.
It's not a strong point, okay? Alright, like, that's it. Just...
As long as you're calling both of them
How does it
trans,
conflate both
there's
experiences?
no
That's right.
conflation. They're saying they have different
That is
experiences. That's
because
why they
it's
need
putting
a
it under
different
the
name for
umbrella
what they
of
go through.
transgender.
So
Okay.
you're expecting them to somehow describe what they go
here's an
through with the same
alternative
words we already use.
Okay, I'm going to provide an
What?
alternative perspective to this situation. So Brianna Wu doing this thing, I think, like, obviously it's the cause of this discord, but it's the cause of the conflict as well. Because if somebody heard, like, someone like myself would have heard Brianna Wu say that, and with not reading into it as much as some people on this panel would
I'm sorry.
have, I think that I would look at Brianna Wu and say, okay, maybe she's emboldening by the fact that, like, yes, the non-binary and the trans movement aren't really, like, as compatible as, like, some people, like, make it out to be. And so, like, seeing that statement, I think that if there was any trans women in her community who are like binary and focus on that particular thought. I think that she would have emboldened them at the same time. So I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with holding that opinion either. I believe it quite strongly, actually.
Sorry,
so.
this argument of we don't have the same experiences, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, that's an argument that I've heard often from transphobes, from TERFs, isn't it?
Who
I'm a
cares?
born
Sometimes-
woman.
That
I'm a
Well,
born
that doesn't
woman.
matter.
Why
That
should
doesn't matter.
why should
So this isn't like that bad of like a thing to say, right? But you have to sort of back that up, right? Like for example, a good retort to this would be that like not all the arguments said by TERFs or by transphobes are like particularly bad, right? Like for example, you can validate some of their concerns, right? You can say that yes, there is
let's-
some to some
I
degree,
just wanna
like you
hear
can
that
say
again.
that like
Sorry, I kind of missed that.
woman?
That
I'm a
doesn't- binary and focus on that particular thought. I think that she would have emboldened them at the same time. So I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with holding that opinion either. I believe it quite strongly, actually.
Sorry,
so.
this argument of we don't have the same experiences, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, that's an argument that I've heard often from transphobes, from TERFs, isn't it?
Okay, so what Lucy is saying here is you can't simply invoke your identity and say like, oh, well, you didn't experience this yourself. That's not a valid argument. That's what Lucy is saying. And she's also saying that's what transphobes say. So there's really two arguments packaged in there. One, she's saying, stop making an idpol argument, dummy. And two, she's saying you sound like a transphobe.
Who
I'm a
cares?
born
Sometimes-
woman.
That
I'm a
Well,
born
that doesn't
woman.
matter.
Why
That
should
doesn't matter.
why should
so this isn't like that bad of like a thing to say, right? But you have to sort of back that up, right? Like for example, a good retort to this would be that like not all the arguments said by TERFs or by
I've already seen this panel, but we'll find out that everyone fixates on Lucy's second argument, which is that it sounds like a transphobe argument, like it is a transphobe argument. It's things that transphobes say, but they completely ignore the other point that Lucy was making. Let's see if Foodshops catches it.
transphobes are like particularly bad, right? Like for example, you can validate some of their concerns, right? You can say that yes, there is some to some degree, like you can say that like the fear of men coming into the woman's, you know, like dressing rooms is like, I understand why your feelings are like that, but here is why your feelings don't really reflect like reality, right? This is why reality does not map onto your feelings, right? Does that make sense? Like okay, you have these feelings, but like for example, you can have your feelings that like a burglar could come into your house at any time and fucking knock you out, right? But what are the chances of that actually happening, right? So the thing is that you are able to make good, you're able to validate someone's feelings, and you're able to validate someone's like emotions and, you know, whatever the heck, right? But the thing is that like not like just because some people can share some points with bigots, right, doesn't mean that every single point is going to be bad. Ali Cattails, welcome to chat. Yeah, hi. But like that doesn't mean like every single point is going to be bad, right? Like for example, another point is good. It is like this, right? Is like for example, both leftists and conservatives and fascists will share this point. Okay, they will think. So both leftists and fascists will probably like share some ideas as well. Like there's no doubt that you will share some ideas as well. Like one thing that you can say that, oh yeah, like why do you guys share like all these ideas in common, right? Here's the thing, is that you can say that, right? But the thing is that, okay, sure, you can understand where these things are coming from, right? But that doesn't mean that like every single one of these, you know, things are invalid, but it doesn't mean that every single one of these things can be retorted, right? And doesn't mean that every single one of these things can be mapped onto reality as well. Anyway, yes, that is how you do it.
Should we be
Can I-
under
can
the
I
same
answer?
umbrella of
Okay,
women?
I don't
Can
think
I
that we
answer this
should.
question? Can I answer
Hey, this whole,
question?
Wait,
hey,
one,
this whole,
one at a time, one at a
Yeah,
time. Let's
this
be
whole-
civil. Let's be civil. Okay, all right, yeah, thank you. That's so cringe.
So,
That's also
that's
said
an
you
empty
should drink
argument.
water.
directed at me.
yeah, I know.
So I just
I can understand
look,
why Queenman
we
mind
can
me. Like,
acknowledge-
I can
we
understand that. I can understand
acknowledge
it.
that there are meaningful differences between different groups without discriminating against those groups. So I may say that my experience as a cisgender woman is different from Jenny's experience,
can
right?
understand
Or Zonia's experience, right? And they should be different. I should be able to acknowledge that.
Now, children, yeah.
That
What
does
the
not
fuck?
mean
Why was
that
I
we're
like-
making
so sorry, we're
anybody
rewinding
less.
again.
But we can acknowledge that these are
I was playing like that bad of like a thing to say, right? But you have to sort of back that up, right? Like, for example, a good retort to this would be that like not all the arguments said by TERFs or by transphobes are like particularly bad, right? Like, for example, you can validate some of their concerns, right? You can say that yes, there is some, to some degree, like you can say that like the fear of men coming into the women's, you know, like dressing rooms is like, I understand why your feelings are like that, but here's why your feelings don't really reflect like reality, right? This is why reality does not map onto your feelings, right? Does that make sense? Like, okay, you have these feelings, but like, for example, you can have your feelings that like a burglar could come into your house at any time and fucking knock you out, right? But what are the chances of that actually happening, right? So the thing is that you are able to make good, you're able to validate someone's feelings, and you're able to validate someone's like emotions and, you know, whatever the heck, right? But the thing is that like, not like, just because some people can share some points with bigots, right, doesn't mean that every single point is going to be bad. Ali Cattails, welcome to chat. Yeah, hi. But
Okay, so yeah, Foodshops is missing the other argument Lucy was making as well. Lucy wasn't just saying you sound like a transphobe. Lucy was also saying you're making an id pull argument, which is the same thing Foodshops was just arguing against. It's strange that Foodshops didn't catch that.
like, that doesn't mean like every single point is going to be bad, right? Like, for example, another point is good. It is like this, right? Is like, for example, both leftists and conservatives and fascists will share this point, okay? They will think so both leftists and fascists will probably like share some ideas as well. Like, there's no doubt that you will share some ideas as well. Like, one thing that you can say that, oh yeah, like, why do you guys share like all these ideas in common, right? Here's the thing, is that you can say that, right? But the thing is that, okay, sure, you can understand where these things are coming from, right? But that doesn't mean that like every single one of these, you know, things are invalid, but it doesn't mean that every single one of these things can be retorted, right? And doesn't mean that every single one of these things can be mapped onto reality as well. Anyway, yes, that is how you do it.
Should we be
Can I-
under
can
the
I
same
answer-
umbrella of women?
I don't
Can
think
I
that we
answer
should.
this question? Can I answer
Hey,
this
this whole-
question?
hey,
Wait,
this whole-
one at a time, one at a
Yeah,
time. Let's be
this whole-
civil. Let's be civil. Okay, all right, yeah, thank you. That's so cringe.
So-
That's
okay.
an empty
That was
argument.
directed at me.
Yeah, I know.
So I just
I can understand
look,
why Queenman
we
mind
can
me.
acknowledge-
Like, I can understand that. I can understand
acknowledge
it.
that there are meaningful differences between different groups without discriminating against those groups. So I may say that my experience as a cisgender woman is different from Jenny's experience,
I can
right?
understand
Or Zonia's experience, right? And they should be different. I should be able to acknowledge that.
Now, children, yeah.
That
What
does
the
not
fuck?
mean
Why was
that
I
we're
like
making anybody less. That we can acknowledge that these are
was playing
two
it
different
wrong.
experiences. And just like that, we can look at the experience of being a binary trans person.
By the way, I'll tell you what was Yoon messaging me at the time. So Yoon is Roman, come up. You can't have a debate without having turn speaking, especially this many speakers. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I understand this, right? Which is why, like, nowadays, I still host these panels. But now I actually have a reasonable amount of people on the panel. Okay, like a normal amount of people. Here's the thing: is that like at the time, Yoon, okay, my head moderator at the time, my only head moderator at the time, he is an anti-transmedicalist. He is not a transmedicalist. Okay, all right. Like he's not a transmedicalist, and he is also a non-binary person. All right. So here's the thing. All right. is that at the time, he was actually messaging me like enraged. He was like Foodshops, how could you be doing controlled opposition like this? How could you be putting the worst how could you be putting the worst debaters on like the anti-transmedicalist side, like on the other side? How could you be doing this to me? You know, it's so funny because that wasn't my fucking intention. That wasn't my fucking intention. Even though I was like messaging in Sunday's Discord server at the time, I was like, yo, can anybody fucking come onto my panel like right now? Can anybody do that on my panel right now? And then people were like jumping on, and I was like, okay, all right. So these people are fucking jumping on, right? And it's like, okay, fine, you know. But like, damn, Yoon was like upset at me. Like he was upset at me because he was like, bro, you're making my side look terrible right now. You're making my side look terrible. We need some people on here. We need some people on here who can actually argue for my side. You know, we can't have VR. We can't have virtual reality VR cat girl like Avatar on here arguing for anti-transmedicalism. Bloody hell! Like we can't do that. It looks so optically terrible. It just looks so optically terrible. Yeah, it's like Yoon was trying to be all like Martin Luther King over this. You know what I mean? Like optics and shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, Yoon is like anti-transmedical.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Martin Luther King? What does that mean? That's an interesting thing to say.
So Yoon was like upset at me over it. You know what I mean?
What was his take on optics? We should look into that at some point.
And Yoon and Jenny Matrix have had cordial discourse before, arguing with each other, but in a civil way, all right, without them screaming at each other. Bloody hell, yeah. And Yoon is right here. So if you guys don't know, Yoon is right here, the bottom right, second from the right, and Jenny Matrix is bottom, is middle right, all the way to the right, and you guys know everybody else, okay, all right, and obviously Melanie is right here, and blah blah blah, right here.
Person and being a non-binary trans person and being somebody who goes by
right now my camera is hiding Kingdom more.
We can look at the differences there and acknowledge it without saying one is less than the other.
Yeah.
And yet they're all under the same umbrella, no?
They're under
That's
the
kind of what's being
LGBTQ.
argued.
I think some people are
but yeah,
fighting
Like
that
trans
perception
women
right
and
now.
women are under the umbrella of women, no? Even though they have different experiences.
If you choose to
It's a
acknowledge
movement,
that, then I
but,
guess
like,
on your side
we
of
don't
things it
get-
is true.
Or are you saying that's not true?
We don't
That
consider
trans
them a
women and
hive
women are
mind, and
not
that's what
under
you
the
mean.
same umbrella?
No, listen, we don't actually we don't think of them
No?
as like a hive mind or anything. I don't know.
The answer to this is that they probably share some kind of, you have to concede to some degree, like some points, right? Like for example, like if you're trying to win in a debate, you have to be able to concede on some hills. If you absolutely like want to die on every single hill, that's just not like a very strategic move. You know what I mean? Like I understand like some people
Die on every hill. Lucy just all Lucy asked was, "Are trans women women?" Just to be clear. She's like just doing a vibe check, like, hey, do we all agree trans women are women, right? I don't think that's like dying on a hill or anything, unless we're on a panel of Republicans.
willing to like die on every single hill or something like that, but sometimes like some people will just look at you weird and just go like, oh my god, whatever, like that, right? But sorry, this is not related to anything that Lucy is saying right now, but yeah, like her name is Lucy, yeah, but like the thing is like but I'm saying, right, is that Lucy is very nice, by the way, so yeah, what I'm saying is that like is that like you can't die on every hill. Sometimes like some people are so willing to die on every single hill, and I feel like Ninetales is like one of these people who are just like willing to die on every single hill, but this is not related, sorry. And but the correct answer to this kind of thing is that there is a Venn diagram, and there are some attributes that both trans women and women will share objectively, and they will not share objectively, right? Like for example, like who you were born as is different objectively, right? Like will they be more?
But that's what Lucy was saying, though. Lucy was saying she wasn't talking about the attributes. She was saying they all fit under the umbrella regardless of the attributes. Obviously, like women and women have different attributes. You could find two cis women that have none of the same attributes. That doesn't make either of them not a woman. That's what Lucy was saying.
Or feminine, objectively, right? Like, broad shoulders, will that be in the, generally in the same area? Like some things will definitely be different. Some things will generally be in the same area. A lot of things are in the same area. Some things are, fine, look at me, right? Look at me. You can clearly say that there's a lot of things in the same area. So there's a lot of things that are different as well. Like, that's fine. That's okay. All right, like, it's fine.
Oh, you're
All right.
talking about now.
Cis woman and trans woman are both under the umbrella of woman, but we don't conflate cis woman and trans woman as like the same exact thing because they are different experiences. And so your argument makes sense that you're saying like, we're calling them non-binary. So why would we conflate the two as the same thing?
And why would
I think what they're saying is that the advocacy is as one group and as one movement, and so as one group and one movement, it's going to make people conflate these things.
Yeah, and the reason it makes more sense as well for trans women and cis women to be under one umbrella than it does for trans women and non-binary people to be under one umbrella, because we have a lot of the same real experiences. There is a lot of overlap there. When trans women still experience sexism, still get treated like women in most social situations. For a fully transitioning passing trans woman, the difference in experience between you and a cis woman is fairly small. I mean, it definitely exists, don't get me wrong, but it is way smaller than it is between me and a random non-transitioning non-binary person. And
you're saying non-transitioning non-binary.
Do you think
do you think
that
likewise,
transition?
I think they don't medically transition.
But they by their own
Sometimes
definition, they
non-binary
don't.
people transition.
Medical transition is
And binary trans people don't transition sometimes. Jenny's leaving so much on the floor.
medical transition the only criteria that makes you trans.
Grandam, thank you for the...
yes.
What separates
Yeah, that is what Jenny believes. Jenny's a transmedicalist. She believes that having gender dysphoria and medically transitioning is what makes you trans. She's basically Blair White.
It's essential.
I got tricked. Thank you, Grandam.
Why exclude non-binary people from the
Thank
trans
you
umbrella?
so
Because
much
from
for
my
the
understanding,
three. No! Why was I
She's not even just excluding non-binary people. She's excluding like regular binary trans people as well. Someone who doesn't pass well enough, or someone who doesn't like transition in the right way, or is too cringe for her, is also going to not be trans in her eyes.
like this? This is so cringe! I can't watch my own content. I don't understand why it's important to figure out who is under which umbrella. Guys, I can't make it through my content. I can't do it. I actually cannot make it through my own fucking content. I can't.
That's true.
Oh god. Oh god. I don't understand what's important to figure out who is under whose umbrella.
You did this, Foodshops.
It's important to figure out who is under whose umbrella, because you're trying to, it's more like Venn diagrams. You're trying to figure out like, okay, what kind of features you share, which kind of features you do not share, because once you figure out which features you share and which features you cannot share, you can also figure out, okay, these are the features we are accounting for when somebody makes an effort to transition, and these are the same efforts that we are accounting for when, okay, somebody makes like different amounts of efforts to determine whether or not somebody is actually transgender or not. Basically, the burden of proof is being placed on the person who is making an effort to transition. That is what the umbrella is for. So it's like, okay, what is the difference between a woman and a trans woman? Anyway, this is just... Okay, all right, you get the point. Anyway, basically, it's just... Oh. That's... Oh, God. This is actually... Oh, I can't. Okay, we're let's get to the actual debate now. So this is better discourse. This is better discourse. This is better discourse. Okay, so Yoon and Rose jumps in. Okay, Yoon and Rose jumps in against our transmedicalists, trying to iron out ironclad definitions. I don't know what specifically ironclad definitions is, but I do appreciate the Goomba profile picture. Okay, the Goomba profile picture is a W. Okay. Bloody hell. Hold on. Where's this? Come on. Play. Hello. Hello.
People are scared because they see trans everywhere and they think, oh shit, this is a brainwashing cult, and they're taking all our kids into it.
I don't think that the reason that they're concerned about kids transitioning is because they're concerned that some people with neo-pronouns might like transition. I think they just don't want kids to transition in general, even if they're binary, right? Like,
but I think conflating the non-binary, like, I would like to remain presenting like a female, but I don't want breast, is a lot more common than.
Also, it's leaving on the table that the line between binary and non-binary is extremely fuzzy, like it's a gradient.
You think, and I think conflict.
Let me introduce you guys to who these people are, okay? So, here, we have Kinklemore, okay? Top left, you can't see him, okay? Don't worry about it, okay? He doesn't talk for the entire time, so it doesn't really matter, okay? I'm just being honest. Okay, so top right, we have Jay Chisel. All right, so Jay Chisel is the person in the forbidden clip, okay? We don't talk about the forbidden clip, all right? Okay, it's the other person in the forbidden clip. Okay, so this is Neve, okay, this is Neve, all right? One of the transmedicalists, okay? No! Silver King, you're not kidding. All right, this is middle, this is Tomfoolery Show, okay? All right? This is Jenny Matrix, okay, the other transmedicalist, okay? This is Rose, all right? No, trust me, you can't use it for blackmail. It's impossible, okay? This is Rose, all right? And this is ketamine autism. I think, yeah.
Transmedicalists all look the same to me.
The name is actually ketamine autism, and this is Yoon, okay? This is Yoon, all right? So everybody at the bottom here. Rose Wrist? This is Rose Wrist? Wait. Is this person actually Rose Wrist? Is this the same Rose? Oh, okay. I was just making sure. Alright, yeah. We're just messing with... Dude, I'm just getting messed around by mods, like, all night today. Okay, alright, just fucking hell, dude.
Conflating the two makes, like, trans-affirming care sound, like, really dangerous.
Why didn't they care 20 years ago? Why wasn't there this same outcry that there is now? The reason is because of visibility. It's because it's fucking everywhere, okay?
The visibility...
Kids were able to transition 20 years ago.
How is the visibility
I know nothing about Rose Wrist, by the way. No, nothing. I don't know anything about the drama.
Like non-transitioning neo
visibility
users, right?
is
the visibility
because
is
the overwhelming majority of trans people are those people, and they're speaking for us.
I disagree.
This is factually true. They are.
The majority of trans people are fucking neo-pronoun users. What's the source for that?
No, that they are non-transsexuals.
Okay, now it sounds like we're talking about a different group.
No, they would make. Jenny would take contention with that on like a categorical basis. Jenny would say that categorically, people who don't transition are not trans. They're assigned sex at birth, right? Because Jenny's saying that trans people are people who transition, so definitionally, if you don't transition, you can't be trans.
No, we're talking about a group
So
that
the
is
worry,
overwhelmingly
is that
non-binary people.
non-transsexuals are transitioning. That's what conservatives are worried about. That sounds weird. Doesn't sound right.
No,
Yeah, that's
they're
terminally
worried
online.
that they think that trans, in your terms, is a social contagion, and they think that it is infecting like thousands and thousands of kids. This is why people like Matt Walsh can go on Joe Rogan and say and make a ridiculous claim like, I think there are millions of kids on puberty blockers, and people will just blindly believe it because there is undeniably this huge trend of kids who now say, oh, I'm trans because of this non-binary shit that's been pushed.
So this is maybe probably like Jenny overextending, right? Like this is like if you were to play your cards right, like you could be like fucking you could definitely like be pushing back hard on Jenny here, right? Like you could definitely be going like, yeah, but there's so many variables here that you just do not know, right? Like for example, like it isn't necessarily like fucking like non-binary shit like going on, right? Like you can say that it's a factor of it, right? But like it's like I don't know if it's like an actual significant amount to the point where it actually becomes a problem, right? Like that's the entire problem. That's the entire thing, right? Like you don't know if it's actually significant, that big of a problem to actually be a problem, right? Because I'm trying to. Here's the thing. Even though I'm like a very very light transmedicalist, I'm like steel manning right now for Rose's for ketamine autism, Rose and
I thought Foodshops said there were good arguments against transmedicalism. Okay. I hope they make it clear what their positions are.
Side, right? The anti-transmedicalist side, right? But yeah, it's a yeah.
I don't know. It's just
Like,
not clear to me. It's just not clear.
Who cares about the brain rot of conservatives? The point of why like the brain rot conservatives matter is because like the propaganda they push against transgender people is super hardcore. Like that's the entire reason why like mainstream media covers transgender people like every single day almost, right? Is because of like the amount of emphasis like conservative people place on like transgender like conservative people place on transgender people, right? So when the kind of rhetoric comes in terms of self-ID and like, oh yeah, as long as you say that you are a woman, then you are a woman or something like that. Like basically like the kind of point that the transmedicalists are arguing is that they typically argue from the side of, oh yeah, by the way, this is not helping our movement. This is not helping appeal to the normies, And Laura says they'll do it anyway. That was not the point of the panel. Yeah. So again, this is the anti-transmedicalist argument, right? Is that they'll do it anyway, right? That they'll do it anyway. This is what Yoon argues from. So Yoon will say they'll do it anyway. This is Yoon's argument. Okay. So Yoon's argument is that they'll do it anyway, and it doesn't really matter, right? Which is
That's true. The trans panic thing isn't like a genuine fear that's coming from the populace bubbling up. It's not something that isn't being injected into the public through media and propaganda and fear-mongering. The anti-trans shit is actually extremely unpopular, even with Republicans. If it weren't for propaganda, it wouldn't be a thing right now.
By the way, it's a good argument, okay? I'm not gonna lie, it's a good argument.
But if we were to completely fold to the transmedicalist argument and do everything their way, it wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't placate the Republicans, because the point isn't to entertain the ideas that Republicans put up as a front, the quote-unquote concerns that they have about trans people. The point of their propaganda, the point of their campaign against trans people is the hatred, it is the fear, it is genocide. That's the point. So there is no appeasement to be had.
Argument, okay? Right? Jesus. Right? I'm not here to say that not every single argument is a good argument, or that every single argument is like a bad argument. Does that make sense? So I'm saying that like there are good arguments on the transmedicalist side, and there's good arguments on the anti-transmedicalist side as well. So you can make either good arguments or not good arguments. But then here's the thing. Watch this. Is that if you are a good transmedicalist debater, you can say this as a response back, is that we're not trying to convince the conservatives whose mind are unable to be changed. We're trying to convince the moderate liberals who are on the brink. They're on the edge of whether or not they want to determine that transgender people are worth the fight. That could be a good retort that you know, the transmedicalist side could give. Okay, now the non-transmedicalist side could give this retort. Okay, they could give this retort. They can instead say something like this. They could say this. Okay, but however, just because of the transgender issue, if they're already liberal, they're already voting Democrat. So why the fuck are you trying to convince the moderate liberal side if they're already voting Democrat? If they're already voting Democrat, then this transgender issue shouldn't fucking matter to them, right? Why are you trying to convince their minds if you're trying to like whatever? So it doesn't even make any sense to me that you're even trying to push for this and you're trying to like spend so much effort trying to push for this shit, right? Because their minds are already like on the Democrat side. So whether or not they want to agree with your self-ID, like with the self-ID shit or not, it doesn't really matter, right? It's like, yeah. So, by the way, there's good arguments to make on either side. There's good arguments to make on either side or not. But terminally online people are unable to make good arguments. Terminally online people are unable to make good arguments, and that's the problem, right? Terminally online people are unable to make good arguments, okay? I'll admit it. I'm a terminally online person. I am, okay? But I'm trying to connect with my roots again. I'm trying to connect with my old Foodshops roots again, okay? And actually make good arguments again, okay? Bloody hell. All right? So here's the thing, okay? Is that I want
Foodshops is returning to tradition.
Rose and I want Yoon to demonstrate right here on how to make a good anti-transmedicalist argument, and I want Neve and I want Jenny Matrix here on how to demonstrate on how to make a good transmedicalist argument, and you're gonna see a wonderful back and forth. Okay, observe.
To me, that's having a big effect on like how conservatives and
Foodshops
even moderate
really
people
overselling
view
Jenny
like
Matrix here.
kids transitioning.
This is the peak of
basically
Twitch Bowl, okay?
the amount of the proportions of support and not supporting it would be about the same if we did whatever you're like prescribing in terms of advocacy and sort of
If
separating.
it was treated as the
like
rare medical condition that it is, people would think about it the same way that they did 20 years ago. They wouldn't really care. You know, people like, do you remember when Jazz
I don't
Jennings
know that that's true.
transitioned in the public eye? People were kind of apprehensive about it, but it wasn't this visceral, okay, we got to ban this, we need a blanket, full stop, no under 18s can transition at all. That wasn't really a thing. I mean, it was in some respects, but it was nothing like it is now.
Okay, do you think there's any like extent to which the current anti-trans outrage is like manufactured as an artifact of like Republicans' anti-gay efforts failing in terms of like gay marriage becoming legal and stuff, and then just moving to the next group? Right?
Somewhat,
Like,
but that doesn't mean we have to give them ammunition.
Do you see how she stays in the real world? Do you see how like Rose actually stays in the real world and goes like, okay, have you ever thought about like whether this legislation blah 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 blah, right? Like this is the kind of stuff where, you know, Brianna Wu can't say shit like, oh, directionally, or shit like, oh yeah, like we have to concentrate on you know, one direction, you know, or like concentrate on like goals or something like that. You know what I mean? Or concentrate on like making real progress or something like that. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So it's like, so basically, like, she is still concentrating on stuff from the real world. It's just that, like, this is like, oh yeah, the Republicans could be fucking, like really inflating stuff to the point where you are, like, giving into Republican propaganda. The last thing that you want to do is giving into Republican propaganda, right? But sometimes you do have to sort of play into Republican propaganda, right? You can concede on that point. You can absolutely concede on that hill. You can absolutely concede that on that hill, right? Does that make sense? Is that you sometimes you do have to concede to Republican propaganda, because guess what? Martin Luther King.
That's true. You can't let Republicans dictate every single thing you do.
Sort of conceded on, you know, white supremacist propaganda. He really appealed towards the appeal of like, oh yeah, this fashionable black, you know, well, like white dressing person and stuff like
Okay, never mind. Maybe Foodshops is making a very different argument for what I just said.
This thug or whatever the fuck, right? It's like he always wears a suit. The people he puts at the front of his movement is always wearing a suit. Always like this pastor, super religious person, right? It's always this aesthetically pleasing person, right? So the thing is that it's complicated. It's just fucking complicated. Okay, it's almost as if this issue is complicated, right? But the thing is, do you know who's not?
This is like a Tim Pool's read on MLK.
Not like good to argue this kind of point. It's like fucking terminally online people. Alright, it's fuck shit.
I think,
I think that to the extent that its ammunition is so tiny that it's probably outweighed by the good
If it's so tiny, then
people.
why does it make up so much of their talking points?
I don't think it does, though. I don't think it does.
Okay,
It
well
makes
then
up
you're just not
some
paying
amount.
attention.
No, that's.
And I can't really do anything about that.
That you're making an assertion that's just untrue, right? Like, so if you look at polling, right, the things that people are uncomfortable with about the trans movement, none of them explicitly reference non-binary people. You can say that the fact that there are.
That is such a good point. Holy shit. I'm sorry. If I was okay, I'm gonna be honest right here. Yes, that's true, right? If you think about it, a lot of the conservative movements, they don't actually reference specifically non-binary people, right? But I don't actually hear that point coming from any of like the people I pulled from Sunday's audience. Like I pulled so many fucking people from Sunday's audience, but none of them said this point because they don't live in the real world. And that drives me fucking nuts. It's because they don't live in the real world. They don't know what conservatives are saying. They just completely shut it out of their mind. So because they don't see what conservatives are actually saying, they can't actually give this argument. So I'm like fucking because Rose is, I don't know what Rose is consuming in her day-to-day life, but I assume that she probably knows what they're saying. Like it's like fucking hell, dude.
Rise and like neopronoun non-binary people contributes
This
to
is why you
how
need to touch grass. This is why
much of
touching
the
grass is
problems
good.
conservatives think it is because of the number of people. But that's just going to be a pretty small effect. It's not going to be a primary driver.
Wait,
right?
but do you
Such
not
that I
think
think
that
that's
education?
Touching grass and watching conservative media are not the same thing. I'm sorry.
The ideology
would be better if there aren't people who are gender abolitionists kind of muddying the water and making things more confusing.
Yeah,
with stuff like
exactly,
neopronouns.
I mean, I think it's
It's a lot.
contextual. I think it's contextual. I don't think every single time you're arguing for something like trans healthcare, you have to mention fucking neopronouns as like an honorary thing. That like these are also valid, by the way. Like
We're getting
I
way
think it's
too hung up on the
contextual.
neopronouns.
It's like I mean, sort of.
I don't think
let me say
people
that again.
generally do that. I don't
You're
think
getting
that's
way
like a
too
huge
hung up
thing.
on the neopronouns.
Okay, well, earlier when
specifically.
I was talking about just non-binary people broadly, someone corrected me and said the
Oh.
conversation was about neopronouns.
I'm going crazy.
I don't know. I jumped in sort of late. I don't. Just trying to.
Well, maybe
go off
that
of what I've
specific
heard.
conversation was, but we aren't talking about that anymore.
I think that, like, when
Sorry, I
you-
was
when
saying
you
that
try
the
to
exclusion
position-
of non-binary people was about the fact that they were using neopronouns, and it was specifically non-binary people that use neopronouns and that are gender abolitionists. It wasn't necessarily like non-binary people as a whole.
Yeah, and so yeah, the more specific group you're just talking about was, I guess, the group I was talking about. But I don't know. Sorry if that's not what you meant to the other person. I don't know.
Another thing is that the arguments that activists make are very weak in this respect, because the best arguments for transition, for letting under 18s transition in some cases, rely pretty heavily on transmedicalism, of this understanding of sex dysphoria being a thing that you can't really treat, that it's not really a matter of just identity. It's like sex dysphoria is a mental illness, and you need to take that seriously. You need to treat it seriously. And when you
Jenny's
make
right
it
about
like
this?
a matter of
Yeah,
just
sure, yeah.
identity, and you say, oh, okay, well, there's all these like thousands of kids who now identify as trans, and look how many of them grow out of it in a few years. You know, like that wasn't really the case again, like 10, 15 years ago. So you're creating all of these reasons for them to doubt.
Also, like,
that kids
yeah. See, here's the
transitioning
thing:
a
is
good
that
thing.
like I don't want to like
Like I said,
fucking,
I mean, I understand
because
I understand
because
that
I
it's
am
like-
more amicable. I am more amicable towards Jenny
I
because
understand
I
that
am more
in,
leaning
like,
towards
no,
her
I-
side.
I-
But like I'm
like, I
not
get your
as crazy as
position.
Jenny
I've
though.
heard it
I'm
a
not
few
as crazy
times
as
now.
Jenny.
So I get that in sort of.
Is Jenny's Twitter still up? Hold on, let's just take a quick look again. This is the person who is calling Demon Mama and Doe and everyone, and Demon Mama and her partners, pedophiles, by the way, on like completely spurious evidence, but Jenny Matrix. If I search Google, she doesn't come up at all. But if I search Twitter, okay, here we go. Non-binary is not a real thing. Transgender is a meaningless category. Self-ID is a terrible idea. If you're not transsexual, you're not trans. Most trans activism is a complete joke. The trans movement has been hijacked and subverted by gender abolitionists. Interesting.
Of an indirect way, it probably contributes to some extent, right? My claim is just that it doesn't seem like it's the main driver. It seems like the main driver is stuff that like would be.
But also, I've been pointing out like how good the anti-transmedicalist side have been so far as well. Bloody hell! Like I've been pointing out like how good the anti-transmedicalist side have been. Like the anti-transmedicalist side have been presenting their arguments like pretty well.
Basically just as bad, maybe slightly less bad in terms of blowback if like we did your prescription in terms of activism.
If you acknowledge that it's a problem at all,
well,
then
well, no,
it's a
the
small
thing,
one.
right?
And
No,
if
but
it's
here's
a
the
small
thing.
problem that enough people
Well, no.
recognize, then it should be small enough to like solve.
Well, no,
right?
the problem though is that
maybe it's
the problem though is that there's also the benefit that those people get, right? Like I think like it just seems to be it's probably the case, like in my opinion. I haven't thought about this a ton, I guess, but it seems like incorporating that group and like fighting for their recognition too, while having maybe some small drawbacks in terms of like binary trans people's goals. It's like the good just seems to outweigh the bad. I don't know. It doesn't seem
So
like
that's
a huge
where
factor.
that's where the
Not even
parasitic characterization comes from, right?
The what?
That's where the parasitic
Well,
like
I mean, you can frame it as
confirmation comes
parasitism
from.
if you want.
No,
It's
it
totally
is. It 100%
well, no,
is.
You have to admit that's
Because
an
trans
incredibly
acceptance
uncharitable
was
way of
based.
framing
No,
it.
trans acceptance in law is based on the binary gender experience. So if non-binary people or non-binary
What do you mean
people
trans acceptance in law? What do you mean by that?
So this is a good point, right? Like basically what Neve is saying is that like, okay, so this is like, cause I've been trying to sort of glazing the anti-transmedicalist side, right? So I'll give one to the transmedicalist side, okay? So this is a point where I think I've said something like this like before, right? Where I've basically said, hey, well actually no, this is what Neve said, okay? Where hey, the law, the entire point of giving the medicine in the first place is that there has to be necessarily be a diagnosis. Like they're not just like giving this shit out like in fucking stores and 7-Elevens, right? Like the whole point of giving like this stuff out is that you need a blood work, you need a blood test, you need a urine test, you need like whatever the fuck, right? Like there's this entire like medical like process that like comes in behind this, right? Like if you're giving it out, basically what's the other side, right? Like if you're just simply giving it out at stores like at 7-Elevens and shit, right? Like any other like candy bar or something like that, right? Then what's the consequence? That people die. Okay, they'll actually just die, right? Because people will not know their blood levels, people will not know their urine levels, people will not know their whatever levels, right? And there will be a section of people who will experience like heart problems. There will be a section of people who will experience like endocrine problems. There will be a section of people who will.
There's an interesting dichotomy being proposed here. People are anti-trans meds also think gender dysphoria is a thing. You can do blood tests and not be transmedicalists. These aren't the same thing. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Although, I mean, transmeds tend to live in a very strange bubble. They don't have very good ideas about what other people think, which is very strange that Foodshops is like praising them so hard about their ability to touch grass. So there's a weird dichotomy being proposed here, or conflation between identity and like a legal framework. People are arguing about like whether or not this identity exists or is valid. Like non-binary in particular, or people. Yeah, non-binary identities, and Foodshops is saying like, oh well, if people are able to get HRT at like your 7-Eleven, then that's going to lead to harm. But I don't think anybody was making the argument that that should be happening. Like, it's kind of jumping topics, it seems like, unless I missed something.
Experience like different kinds of problems, like bone marrow problems. Well, not bone marrow problems, but like osteoporosis and etc. Right? Like these are problems that they will absolutely experience, right? Just because that they will know nothing about their body and while like consuming like this kind of stuff, right? So the thing is, like, of course, there's like a benefit to getting medical tests for this kind of stuff, right? So, but then some people on like the anti-transmedicalist side will argue for some stuff like, oh yeah, but I feel like whenever I go through some of these examinations that it is gatekeeping, estradiol and spinal.
Okay, anti-transmedicalist doesn't mean like anti-medicine or like anti-medical standards. Like, obviously we would refer to the actual like evidence-based approach that exists in like the DSM-5 or whatever, and like the other whatever medical standards exist that we rely on. And obviously nothing is perfect, things get refined over time, but just because you're anti-transmedicalist, it doesn't mean that you're against there being any kind of gatekeeping whatsoever. That just seems like a complete straw man.
Lacto and progesterone and stuff like that, right? But you know what? These kinds of things, like they're supposed to keep you safe. They're supposed to be there to keep you safe. They're supposed to keep you alive. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's like that's the whole point behind it, right? Anyway. Yeah, just want to give 1 point to the transmedicalist side here on this one, right? I still want to point out like good points that are made on the transmedicalist side when they deserve it. All right, when they fucking deserve it. All right. Also, guys, if you're new to the stream, please subscribe. Thank you. All right. If you're new to the stream and you like my commentary, all right, this based ass commentary I'm giving at fucking can I know your urine levels? I would tell you if I knew. Okay. But all right, like also like yeah, if you like my commentary at like fucking 4 a.m. Eastern, okay? It's fucking 4 a.m. Eastern, and for some reason I have 30 concurrent viewers at 4 a.m. Eastern, okay? So please like and sub, thank you. All right, clearly you enjoy the content. I'm not even gonna lie, clearly you guys enjoy the content. All right.
Someone needs to tell Foodshops that transmedicalism isn't when a trans person goes to the doctor. Yeah, true. That seems to be the perception here.
Not specifically, like give an example.
Your ability to change your pronouns on your driver's license, like your ability to access like medical health care, like there's so many different things, but it's built around the idea of gender, like binary gender people, and then non-binary people hop on, call themselves trans, and then
that's not true, by the way. The medical standards that exist accept non-binary people. The law in a lot of places accepts non-binary people. You would have to repeal rights that already exist in order to appease transmedicalists. The people who are like, oh, well, these crazy woke lefties are anti-reality. They want to change the medical system to suit their needs. No. Actually, it's transmedicalists who are doing that.
Way, it's parasitic.
I mean, like you could, like I understand that you could frame it that way, but I'm just saying, like you could also frame it as like a type of solidarity, right? Like, I mean.
By the way, one criticism for the transmedicalist side, okay? Don't say that it's just simply like parasitic, right? Like you have to say that it's parasitic, and then say like it might sound harsh, but like in a way, when they say that it's parasitic, doesn't it feel like it's kind of true, right? Like yeah, and I'll argue why it's like kind of try to explain why, right? Like. Yeah, but like when you say straight off the bat that it's parasitic, you just come off as kind of vindictive and kind of hateful. You know what I mean? Like yeah, optics matter. You know what I mean?
To some extent, right? Obviously, not 100%, but like
why would we champion like priority?
Yeah, multiple states have non-binary driver's license. A lot of places do, and it's growing. The idea that it's not politically viable or that it's just not possible or it's like optically bad is not true. People who think that we're destroying or undermining the movement need to touch grass.
That are, why would we champion priorities that are currently like working against our interests? They're obviously working against our interests. So like, why would we stand in solidarity with that? Would you do the same thing?
From my view, I already gave my reason.
By the way, one thing is that like I think Neve and I talked afterwards, and then Neve literally said, "Oh yeah, I think I was actually like a way too unhinged, like during this entire thing. Like I actually think like I was a bit too unhinged like during this entire thing. So yeah, like understandable, you know what I mean?
Right? 'Cause from my view, it seems like a pretty small cost for what seems to be like a bigger benefit for that group of people.
So she's even self-aware of it,
people, right? Giving them at least some community they can fit in with that like is that, and yeah, we can sort of
they
like,
have taken over our community
over the way. I mean, so how is that a response to what I'm saying?
They're in our spaces.
Because why would we give them that? Why would we let them take everything?
Well,
all of our spaces
really
are dominated by.
I get why it sounds not appealing, but I'm as another binary trans person, I'm telling you that to me.
By the way, if you have to say that all of our spaces are dominated, you have to provide examples of that. Like you have to provide examples of that. All right. So again, this is one. Oh my god! Like I didn't even realize like Rose was doing so well here. I'm sorry. Like Rose was actually doing more well here than I thought.
How you debate these people is you just fucking dunk on them. Honestly, like don't even take them seriously. Jesus Christ. Yes, a lot of states have self-ID laws, and by the way, self-ID is also like the medical standard in, I'm pretty sure, like everywhere. Or at least everywhere that like follows like basic, you know, medical research.
Like she was, okay, and that's like the thing though, right?
That's where the medical
is that I didn't even realize like how well she was doing until I am rewatching this right now, right?
So, like, transmedicalism is anti-medicine or anti-science.
Like, yeah, like, damn, you know, like she's actually saying she's 1v2ing right now. She's actually 1v2ing, like fucking Jenny and Neve. Like, damn.
Seems like the costs don't outweigh the benefits, right?
When you say solidarity, I hear capitulate every single time.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, like, do you see how like every
like basically it's like when I hear solidarity, I hear capitulate. Like bro, you have to provide examples and evidence. You have to provide examples and evidence of that. Does that make sense? Like yeah, of course. Like
the response for the past like 3 minutes to me has just been rephrase what I said.
Like
in
what does that mean?
Terrible way, right? Like.
Yeah, which is true.
It seems to me
Rose is right.
I'm
sorry, Rose is right.
I guess you can frame it as parasitism or whatever. It's just not an interesting analysis to me.
Yeah,
you haven't even acknowledged the fact that these are distinct categories and there are
what distinct categories? What two categories have I not acknowledged are distinct?
The categories of transsexual and transgender.
When did I say that those are not? When did I say they're the same category?
You are saying.
You're implying it.
You implied it by saying by saying that we should include these people under our umbrella in our.
And then here Jenny is like completely lost it because Rose is being such
under the umbrella of trans. It's like, wow, I can't believe you're saying that tall woman and short woman are under the same umbrella.
The fucking Giga Chat. I just can't, bro. And Rose isn't even from Sunny's community. Is Rose still in the Discord? Yes. Ketamine autism. Just add ketamine autism if you want to reach out to her. Yeah. But dude, this is like she's actually such a good anti-transmedicalist debater. She's actually such a good debater.
communities. That
Yeah,
we should give them that because
So
you
let me
don't
help
think
you.
that the cost
Solidarity.
is significant
So let
enough.
me help
You
you.
call it
Let me help you.
solidarity.
She's
Let
one
me
between
understand.
Neve and
She's
she's
one
one
between
between
Neve
Neve
and
and two. One at a time, alright? She's one between.
If she's so good, then why are you on Jenny's side?
Let me help you since you clearly don't understand how the fuck like terms work, right? Like transsexual is a smaller umbrella that is under the transgender umbrella, right? There's no conflation between the terms.
Actually,
I don't
fuck
think
it.
they're the same thing.
I might actually, well, I might want to debate Rose. I might want to debate Rose sometime. It might seem fun.
Right.
Fuck it.
That's just not true. I think
You're
there are
capitulating the
transsexuals,
entire
and there's a
idea right
type
now.
of person that is transgender, right? I'm not saying
Absolutely
I'm
is, because
explicitly not,
every
right?
use of transsexual from before the 1990s has now become a use of transgender. One has supplanted the other entirely. That transsexual
Okay, so you're saying
isn't
other
a term
people
that's...
view them as the same?
I'm saying
the claim that you made was that
everyone
I was
treats them
confused,
as
right?
one.
Okay, the claim that you
That this
made, though.
identity of transgender has supplanted transsexual.
Okay, I just want to bring you back to the fact that what I was responding to is the claim that I was.
The reason for that is because a lot of bigots use transsexual to refer to transgender people, and it's become socially poisoned in that sense. That's not to say that it can't be reclaimed for people to use self-referentially, and there is like a valid semantic reason to use it for people who transition. However, most people who are transsexual are also transgender. Generally, if you're changing your sex, it's very hard to do that without changing like the social category that's associated with your sex. Not to say that you can't do that, but I think that's a lot less common than people who simply change both.
Was conflating these throughout the conversation or not recognizing a distinction, which is just untrue, right? I know that the terms mean different things. One of them refers to transitioning medically. One of them doesn't refer to that clearly, right? I understand.
You are
that
conflating because you think that we should
I'm literally not.
work towards benefiting. Well, you kind of are, because you're saying that we should work to the benefit. We should work against our own interests because it benefits like a small minority of people who believe they're in our same categorization.
Yeah, and I think that like gay, lesbian, and bi people should have fought harder for trans people, even though trans people were optically like an issuesome for them at many points in like history, right? Like,
well,
like that
in the most
analogy works
ironic way
perfectly.
possible, gender is not equivalent to sexuality. Can we talk about something a little bit more relevant?
Well, it's not identical, but it's analogous in the way that we're talking about, right? We're saying one group.
I'll defend Jenny and Neve a little bit is because by this time Rose has just came in. Like Rose has been in this, like just for some context, right? Like Rose has been in this panel only for a little bit, and Jenny and Neve have been in here for hours. They've been in here for hours. Okay, like of course you're gonna fucking lose your mind. Like this is literally like this is actually just like a fucking like cluster fuckery like of like, yeah, like only by this time it was, yeah. We are older time because we vaguely had the same struggles. No, fuck off. Listen. I wish there's a better way to phrase that, but I wish Neve and Jenny phrased it like that, but in a nicer way, obviously, during a debate, right? But at some point, Yoon begins to speak up. And that's when it really gets good, because Yoon is also a fantastic debater. Yoon is just as good as Rose! Okay, alright, hold on. It's really exciting. It's really
That
good.
has some more political capital than another group that is a subgroup of that group should fight for that less advantaged subgroup, right? In a lot of cases, when it seems like the benefits outweigh the costs, which it does to me here, and it did, and it would have to me as like a bi person in like the 80s or like 90s. I would say we should fight hard for trans people, even though it's optically a little bit burdensome for like the gay movement.
It's not just optically a little bit burdensome. The joining of these groups under one umbrella and rejecting the difference between them which the term transgender and the way that it's used do that, have like obvious negative effects on. Yeah, you can sit there and sigh all you like, but you're just not engaging in the actual argument. You're just doing this semantic bullshit.
I'm just like disappointed because it's such like boring analysis, right? Like
I'm just disappointed.
The claim was that I was conflating them and not recognizing them, and it's like,
Well, that's
no,
an
I
intelligent
wasn't.
criticism
So
of
now
something
the
that
claim-
we're saying is like actually the case, right? So I don't know what's more
Well,
boring,
no,
like
I've
you
given
saying
my-
it
I've
is,
given my
or
point
you
of view-
providing
I've
like an
given my
actual
point of view,
argument.
like,
That's
4
what she's
times.
saying.
I've
just
given my
talking
point of
in
view like 4
circles.
times, and then
Yeah, but
it's
ignores.
just not a satisfactory response. Like, you just haven't given a satisfactory response. I'm really sorry. You can try again if you want. But, like,
I think your retort completely ignores the entire foundation of what we're saying, right?
Getting
So,
ugly.
I
No,
don't know. Maybe
not
we
really,
should move
though.
on because we're talking
Not
past
really,
each other.
though. Doesn't
Absolutely,
really.
it does. Absolutely,
No,
it
not
does.
really.
Because you're ignoring the fact that we are working against our own interest by having somebody in our own.
Again, I feel as though Neve and Jenny Matrix has not sufficiently demonstrated this, right? Like, it's just that, like, here's the thing. Here's what they could have said. Bloody hell, is that Emma, my other top mod, my other top mod have like here. Sorry, there you go. All right. Like Emma, my other top mod, she like she can make a better like she can make a better transmedicalist argument than Neve and you should steelman their Jenny and Neve's argument shops. Okay, the steelman's this, okay? Is that wait, I feel like I've been steelmanning the transmedicalist side this entire time. Before pulling up this thing, but sure, I'll do it, right? Hold on. The next time Rose makes an argument, because I've been streaming for hours. Like, my mind is like fucking frazzled a little
Whatever,
bit.
pool or
No,
categorization.
I'm literally
That is
granting
ancestral,
that.
like
I
that
don't
is
know-
parasitic.
I don't know
No,
if
you
you're not
aren't
following.
granting that. You aren't granting that because in all of
I don't know
your
if you're not following.
rebuttals, no, in all of your rebuttals, it exclusively excludes that because it's
No,
convenient
it
to you in this
doesn't.
Oh
argument.
no, she
Yes, it does.
included that when she was
God
talking about
damn,
gay
this was so
people
good.
trying to advocate for trans people within the
No,
LGBTQ
that's
movement.
that's completely different.
It's
Dude,
not
it's
because
analogous.
even they are even
It's
more
analogous.
of a
No, the
separation.
sexuality piece is
than-
irrelevant. The sexuality piece was irrelevant for when she
not
brought it up,
analogous.
and it's
It's
not
analogous.
analogous to right now. It is
Hold
not.
on, just listen. Gay
Absolutely, yeah.
sexuality is so much more different than gender than trans is from like non-binary, right? Those are a
Okay,
lot
do you
closer
think-
to one
okay,
another
do you think
than
the
trans
LGBT
and gay
okay?
people. Yet she still expected them to advocate on behalf of the
Okay,
LGBT.
do you think trans people being associated with like the gay rights movement and like gays and lesbians hurt their movement?
Is there a good rebuttal to this argument? Do you think transgender people? Because here's the thing, is that I feel like you have to necessarily concede. That like people, like minority groups that are standing together are just generally fucking better. I don't know. Minority groups that stand together generally fare better. Okay, this is why there's like fucking like black transgender like fucking coalition shit groups like going on. Sorry, I didn't mean to call them shit. Okay, that's just the way I talk. Okay, that's not bloody hell. Okay.
Not related to anything Jenny Foodshops is saying here, but we're gonna do a MLK research stream sometime in the future, just to like fact check this MLK optics shit, because I see a lot of people talking about MLK being like the optics king, being like, oh, I really care about like dressing nice for white people, and I really don't think that's what he was about. Like, obviously he cared about appealing, like mass appeal. It's not that he didn't care about optics, but I don't think that was like his main thing, or that's like the thing to take away from his legacy. But I guess we'll find out in the future.
Yeah,
I think
you got
it
my point.
did. I do think it did, and yet I still think that it's good that they fought for trans people. Like,
Again,
I
this
don't
is
know
a
why
point
the
I wouldn't
fuck
die
people
on. This is
trash my
a
argument
this
that's
is
been, like,
this is
4
a hill I
times.
wouldn't die
I'm
on.
granting to you that it's like it hurts binary trans issues in some way. I'm literally fucking granting that. You're just not tracking. I'm saying that the benefits outweigh the costs likely. Like, what? Just engage with the actual argument.
Based on what? And also, why do we owe them? Why do we owe those people anything?
like, oh is a weird way to frame it. I think doing morally good things is good, right? I think it's helpful. It benefits people. I care about people. I care about disadvantaged groups, not just my own.
Okay, that's
You're
not an
still
argument.
working
Tell
from
me
the trans-
why.
You're working
Tell
from the
me
trans umbrella.
why I should care about
There's an
them.
honest way to approach the conversation if you say you're granting the things that we're saying.
Semantic dispute that I have.
It's like arguing with an egoist.
I don't care. Make an argument, right? It's the
Well,
same.
you haven't
every
made the
single one of
case
your
for
premise-
why it's worth that
all of
cost.
your
You're just saying,
premises-
yeah, it is.
All of your
No,
premises are
that's
based on
not.
the
Wait,
benefit.
hold on. Rose has been making an argument this entire time, but the thing is that like Neve, it's just the Neve. And, oh no, dude, wait, Neve and Jenny don't have an argument. Neve, okay. Neve and Jenny Matrix, they just don't have they don't have one. They just don't have one. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's just
of like it being more beneficial to include them than it is to not. That's
Okay, so
based
you
on the
admit what you
idea
said
that you
before?
include non-binary people in your trans umbrella. We clearly do not. So when you frame an argument, you are absolutely
they're just repeating their
removing
claim.
that from, like
They're just repeating their claim.
the reality, and you're trying to present it not as such. That's what you're doing.
I mean, not really though, right? I'm not saying all non-binary people are transsexual. I'm
No,
saying
when you say that you think it, when you say that you think that it benefits more people than to not do it, you are erasing what we're saying. That's what you're doing.
I'm not though. I'm literally
Okay,
granting.
hold on. But how are they erasing? You have to explain how though. You can't just say you're erasing it, but you have to explain how though, right? Like, oh my god. Oh.
This is a cool level. I think this is new.
No, you're
literally
not. You're absolutely not. You're being disingenuous.
I'm not being.
No.
How am I being
Okay.
disingenuous?
Hold
I'm
on.
the
Hold
line.
on. Hold on. You have to say. Okay. You have to say. How is she being disingenuous? You can't just say she's being disingenuous. You have to say how is she being disingenuous. You have to say how she is being disingenuous.
You believe that's the best thing to do because you believe the best thing to do.
So I have
you can't convince us, and you think that it's mutually beneficial to what you
Okay,
believe.
wait. It's a 1v2. It's a 1v2. Let's tone it down a little
Not
bit.
really.
Jenny does have an argument. You hold our advancement of our cause as a hostage unless you get what you want. Is that really her argument? Because the thing is, from what I see, is like all I hear is Jenny making arguments such as like, well, arguments more mainly like, oh, you're being this and that, and then not really like, okay, how you're being this and that. Does that make sense? That is her argument. Yes, but here's the thing. You can make that claim, right? That's a claim. That's a claim, okay? That's a claim. That's a claim. You have to show how that claim is true. You have to show how that claim is true. Right? I wouldn't even necessarily go that route. I wouldn't even necessarily go that route. Does that make sense? Like, is that even necessarily true? Like, when I interpret it, like, my personal beliefs? I'm trying to think of my own personal beliefs. Do I think advancement is being held back because of non-binary people? Wait, sorry. Do I think advancement is held back because of anti-transmedicalist talking points? Oh! I mean, in a way, you can sort of say that. You can sort of say that, okay? Well, you can sort of make that argument, right? You can sort of make that argument, but you have to show how. You have to show how, okay? You have to show how. And I don't think you have to... Here's how you can show how, okay? You can say...
Do it.
You can say that...
Make the argument.
By erasing the lines between how much effort you can put into transitioning, you are in fact holding back transgender movements as a whole. And therefore, if you associate transgender progressive movements alongside the LGBT movement, because they're all categorized together in like the mainstream media's mind, right? Because the mainstream media sort of categorizes them together, right? LGBT, right? They categorize them all together, right? Because they categorize everything together, then therefore it drags down the whole movement. So therefore, that is how anti-transmedicalism drags down the whole movement. That is how you make the argument. However, I have not heard that argument. All right. Yeah, that's how you make the argument. But I have not heard that argument. Okay. So, and not only that, you have to show examples of that. So that is how you do it. Okay, that's it.
I mean, it is. Like,
Jesus.
so I'm just saying.
Fuck, I don't even know what to say. This like word soup. I think I need to listen to that again. Jesus Christ.
Back transgender movements as a whole. And therefore, if you associate transgender progressive movements alongside the LGBT movement, because they're all categorized together in like the mainstream media's mind, right? Because the mainstream media sort of categorizes them together, right? LGBT, right? They categorize them all together, right? Because they categorize everything together, then therefore it drags down the whole movement. So therefore, that is how anti-transmedicalism drags down the whole movement. That is how you make the argument. However, I have not heard that argument. All right. Yeah, that's how you make the argument. But
okay, so by blurring the lines between binary and non-binary trans people, you conflate them together in the media, in the public mind, and that drags down the trans movement. Her point was something about transitioning and how much effort you put into transitioning. People already do this. It would be called transsexuals by calling trans women not pretty enough or manually or shit like that. Yeah, it feels like Foodshops is conflating transsexual and transgender again. Like, and conflating non-binary and non-transitioning transgender. Like, Foodshops is kind of blurring a lot of categories together here in order to make that argument, which is what's catching me up, I think. That's what I'm tripping on.
I have not heard that argument. Okay. So, and not only that, you have to show examples of that. So that is how you do it. Okay, that's it.
I would like to see examples.
I mean,
of that.
it is. Like,
Jesus.
So I'm just saying, like, me having a different opinion than you doesn't make me disingenuous. Like, at least just say my take is wrong. Don't just say stupid stuff like you're lying, you're disingenuous. Like,
Well, I think
Yes.
it is because you're not listening to what we're saying.
But I am.
Okay.
Though. I'm trying to. What you're
No,
saying.
you're not.
Can we stop for a second? Can we stop for a
granting-
second?
You think you're granting it, but by reinforcing the wrong opinion every single time, like that's telling me that you don't.
Begging the question.
Okay.
Why? Okay, so Rose, you acknowledge
What is you
that
doing in the
fight
corner?
for
Is he just
non-binary
stimming
stuff
this entire time?
impedes on the fight for binary trans stuff, right?
To
You've already said
some
that.
extent, I don't think it's a major.
Okay. Why do you think that we owe non-binary people anything?
Because doing good stuff is good and helping people who are disadvantaged.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is no, you don't die on this hill. Okay? Alright, Jesus. You shouldn't die on this hill. I feel like this is like not a fight to take, right? Like why not?
Okay, I will agree that that was a bad response. I wouldn't accept the framing. I would reject the framing of it being about owing non-binary people anything. I would reframe it in like a utilitarian sense, in the term of raising the bar for everybody, and appeal to like existing medical standards and evidence-based and outcome-based arguments.
It's not like you owe anything. It's that you believe that generally people getting good things is good, right? Like, for example, why is it that we help out? Why is it that we help out? Why is it that we help out Mexican immigrants, even though some people might make the argument that American citizens don't owe Mexican immigrants anything, right? Like, American immigrants don't owe Mexican immigrants anything. So why is it that we help out Mexican immigrants? Why is it that we make policies and laws that hasten Mexican immigrants fast track to US citizenship? Why is it that we hasten that fast track, right? Because it is generally good. It's generally good to do good things. It's just good to do good things, right? And people, you say that non-binary people are valid, but the thing is that that's not the best argument, right? Is that that's not a good argument, right? A good argument is that it's good to do good things. That's as simple as that. It's good to do good things, right? Does that make sense? And then some people, like for example Andrew Wilson, right, from BPF, right, from the Crucible, he will say something like, okay, define good, okay? Some people might say, okay, good is whenever is benefit, okay? That is probably a lot of people's if people have thought about it and philosophy and stuff like that, a lot of people's go-to answer is good is benefit, okay? What is benefit? Benefit is how much you can give goodness to others, okay? Is the basically anything that can extend the human conscious experience that in total in summation of totalness, okay, or whatever the heck, right? And it's not just feel good, because basically you can sexually assault somebody and that can feel good, but that's not necessarily a good thing, right? But what is good, right? Something that is intrinsically good, right? For example, food is intrinsically good because that extends the human consciousness experience, right? Is food, right? Water, right? That extends the human consciousness experience. It's good, right? You give water to somebody else, that extends that person's consciousness experience, okay? Benefit, it's benefit, okay? Benefit, welfareism, right? Generally, you want to define goodness as that, if you really want to, okay? That's a util. Like Andrew Wilson will always go to, define util for me. Define util for me. well then, you know, define util for me. You know, like that kind of shit, right? Like he'll do that kind of shit. Yeah. So util is just one unit of goodness, and define good, okay? Goodness is benefit. Define benefit is just anything that extends the human consciousness experience, okay? Or for the maximum amount of people. This is like basically how maybe you should go about it. That's it. All right. That's it. All right. So therefore, if everybody agrees on that, okay, then fine. We argue from there. All right. But if you can't even concede that, then there's no argument to be had. You should just quit the debate because I don't want to argue about what's good or bad.
Yeah, like it's true. It is good to do good things, but that's like what's the, I don't know, that's just not very convincing to people, right? Like if somebody is already at the point where it's like, why should I help this group? Yeah, that whole like that whole consequentialist like util thing with Andrew Wilson and Vosh was so cringe. If somebody's already making like this egoist kind of, oh, why should I help this group that isn't my group, then saying it's good to do good things isn't going to be convincing to that person. You have to make some other kind of argument to them, because they're like, if they were convinced by that, then they wouldn't be making that argument in the first place.
I don't want to argue about stupid ass philosophy shit. Okay, I'm sorry. Because here's the thing, if somebody says that their meaning of good comes from God and the Bible, I don't want to have that fucking debate. It's so fucking boring. Jesus. Okay.
It's just good, even if they're not from the same disadvantaged group as
What
you.
I'm asking is why it's good.
because those people having some type of community they can associate with and feel some type of safety around and some type of inclusivity around is good. It makes them not fucking socially alienated. It makes them not fucking depressed. Right.
If I reject the premise of non-binary, why should I accept them? Why should I offer them my space? When you recognize that comes at a
egoism?
cost
Sure,
to
in a
me
way.
and people like me.
Why should I let them into my bathroom?
Like I've just said like three or four times now. I
But
think
yeah, you just said you think it's good. I'm asking why it's good.
Them. You asked how it benefits them. And
I may pass out, but I will lurk my Giga chat.
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't ask why it benefits them. It's clear how it benefits them.
I said how it benefits all, even if
A
it's
spastic brain dead version of ethical philosophy. Don't worry about it. Okay, all ethical philosophy is brain dead.
Yeah, like I'm part of that group, right?
Jenny is asking, what do I get out of it? I think Jenny's like stance is being misunderstood here.
I understand the costs, right?
Here's the thing.
Or whoever they're arguing against, honestly. As I said, transmeds all look the same to me.
I actually disagree. Well, here's the thing. I originally thought that the good was just feeling good, but then I realized that, you know, you could rape somebody and that could feel good, and that's not good. All right, so listen.
I'm saying.
All right, I'm just saying is that you have to figure out a good version of good.
Disadvantaged that share at least some struggles with us. Not all of them. They share some struggles, like people thinking that they're a freak, or people thinking their identity is weird, like things like this, and just like using the wrong name for them, using the wrong pronouns for them. There are some social struggles that we share, and I think we owe it to this group of people that is like super fucking socially isolated and has a lot of bad outcomes, that like we provide some level of support and camaraderie and understanding and openness to them.
That you think that. Can you explain why?
Yeah,
why should I? Why you're not? You're just saying, oh well, helping them's good, therefore let's do it.
No, I will. I've explained like 4 times, but I will again. I think
you haven't.
Yeah, but wait, but she has, right? Like, for example, she has dumbed down her like entire thing to the point.
No, she. Okay. I will. Now I'm the one steel manning the transmed side. They actually haven't responded to the point. The transmeds are saying, what do I get out of it as like someone who doesn't care about anyone but myself? Like, they're sitting on their throne saying, come to me with a gift. Give me something. I don't care about them. Why should I step down from my seat to help them? That's what they're asking, and nobody's really offering anything. I mean, they shouldn't have to. It's a stupid fucking question. It's a stupid fucking debate. This is all a clown show. But to be fair, nobody is really answering that.
Point where she goes, okay, this is what I define as good. Good is when I like she has basically like sort of said like, okay, this is like I define things as good. It's good to help others. It's good to help others, right? Like yeah, that's I mean, in a way, that's like the most like touchy grass like version of it, right? Does that make sense? Like that's the most touchy grass version of it. And then it's good to help others. Yeah, it's good to help others. That's it. It's just fucking good to help others. Okay. All right. So, all right. And if everybody agrees on that, okay, okay, it's like I just don't even know. Okay, all right, it's just. By the way, this is because Yoon literally had to like go like, Yoon literally had to go like, oh my god, oh. Like Yoon literally had to throw into me. Yoon was actually going and saying like whatever. Why should I help people? Say Jenny, that's just being absurdly honest. She admits it would help people. She refuses to do it. Because I don't know what kind of philosophy she ascribes to. I don't know. Like I don't know. Maybe, but here's the thing: is I think that maybe if you actually drill it down, that Jenny actually does believe in like beneficiary philosophies and stuff like that. That good actually does mean welfareism. But like in this one, maybe she's just being stubborn because it's like Rose is like being too gay chat here.
Actually, you might think you have, but you really haven't.
I literally have.
Just let her out.
So I've literally said, like, I don't know how many times I have to restate the same thing, right? I'm granting that there's some impeding
Bro, let's be honest. There's always been a moment in a debate where you know you're losing, all right? You know you're subconsciously you know you're losing, but consciously you don't think you're losing or whatever the fuck, right? You're just being very stubborn, right? So in a way your insecurity kicks in. So you're like I'm not gonna fucking concede. I'm gonna double down, triple down. Okay.
I think it's really small, probably not even like a secondary or tertiary factor. Some degree to which
you know you're lost in your heart
is like impedes on some binary trans goals. But I'm saying the benefits to that group of people outweigh the costs. And I think pushing, like, I don't know, yeah, because of the fact that it doesn't seem like this is the primary factor, it seems like if we can like sort of move the Overton window like a little to the left of where we need it, it will actually pay dividends in the long run, even if in the immediate term it's maybe rough for binary trans people. Like, I think in the long term it might actually be better for us, right? Because like then
it doesn't hurt anybody. I don't think it hurts anybody. You'd need to make the case that it's dragging the movement down. Nobody has made that case.
we're not the fucking wall anymore, right? There's another group that's the wall.
Well, don't it make some benefit of others?
No, I think you're still not answering the question, right? Like, do y'all...
It's all
Wait,
just
you
being
ready?
taken for granted.
You ready, Harrison? Here's the thing, is that you can actually ascribe to like a philosophy where you're like, okay, the only version of good is whatever benefits myself, okay? And I don't know, okay, like I guess it's like, I don't know what kind of philosophy that would be, but like I don't know. Okay, I don't know. But like what is it, like self, I don't know, that's just like self-preservation. I don't know, it's fucking self-preservation. I don't know. All right.
Is the question being answered in your mind, Jenny?
I'm so confused. What is she not answering? Hold on. She's saying that there are intersectional like issues that both groups worry about, and that advocating on behalf of them will still be beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, I think in the long run,
we don't want to be we don't want to be a martyr for gender ambivalence. Sorry.
Well, I mean, right? If I had reason to believe, and if
That's
I
what
thought,
you're reducing us to.
okay, can I respond with you're interrupting me, please? Right. So, like, if I did the utility calculus,
Yes,
and it
let's
really
let
seemed
Rose
like
respond. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, if I did the utility calculus, and it really seemed to me like I had reason to believe that, like, accepting with and sort of like associating this group of people with us actually was maybe like a primary driving factor in transphobia, and there was like a clear movement in the polls where like the main things Republicans were focusing on are like, yeah, these like other pronouns and weird stuff like this, and there was reason to believe that also like these people were the main drivers behind like medical care being restricted, then I would say, yeah, it's probably not worth it to like stick our necks out for this group. But it just seems to be that it's like not even like a secondary factor. Like, it just doesn't seem like that big a cost.
Republicans
like,
are capitalizing on the trivialness of the movement. Binary trans women are based in like medical procedures and actual science, and being non-binary is like an abstract thought process of the gender experience.
Do you think Republicans care about actual science?
Uh-oh.
By the way, I'm...
care about
Uh-oh. Yoon has joined. It is Jover. It is actually Jover. Double the rows.
On what they can find, the weakest point in an opposing movement. And
Yeah,
right now, that weak point is trivialness.
Hold on. So, Neve, whenever I hear Republicans talk, the thing I hear them talk about is the idea that men can turn into women and boys can turn into girls being inherently flawed in itself. They do not talk about the non-binary identity. They don't even know what the fuck that is.
Oh, I highly disagree with that.
No, they
Okay.
are talking about it when they talk about their young daughters
They
going home
conflate
and trying to get mastectomies. They conflate all the ideas together, and that's the issue. Thanks for building my point.
They conflate everything together. Gay people, trans people, it's all the same to them. Gender non-conforming cis people, everything. If a guy has long hair, that's a trans person. If a woman wears a suit, that's a trans person. That's why conservatives think it's gay for a man to have sex with a trans woman, because they think that a trans woman is just a confused man that is gay. They think it's the same thing, that trans people are just gay people. There's no difference in their mind. There's no distinction between these categories. It's all the same thing to them. We're like debating, oh, you're blurring the line between this and that. They don't care. They don't give a shit. It's all the same to them.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
Yoon,
but
thank you. Finally, it's a 2v2. Thank God, Yoon. Okay, oh my god.
Okay,
Yeah, but
so
the-
Jenny,
okay,
hold
go
on
ahead,
real
go
quick.
ahead.
Sorry, Rose.
Why was it so
Okay.
cringe?
Jenny and Neve knows I'm on Rose's side on this. I'm not a gender abolitionist, but I'm also not a trans med. I think it's fine to have non-binary people. I think they can coexist with trans people in the same movement. And I think that that movement can be successful and it'll be good for both trans people and non-binary people. That's what I think. Just wanted to make
Okay.
that clear.
Um,
Rose, sorry for interrupting.
All right.
I don't remember what I was going to say, so
Okay.
someone else can respond.
Well, someone else here.
Hold on, it's not about whether it makes sense or not, or whether it's like the utility calculus of does it like is it going to be like it like cost benefit analysis of like helping binary trans people if we include non-binary or not. I just think it doesn't make sense. Like, you know how there's like the big fucking pan LGBTQ flag that includes like black and brown and all these things. It's like, okay, yeah, like LGBTQ spaces are like usually welcoming to like minorities as well, but that doesn't mean when you fight for one you have to be fighting for all of them at the same time. Like, just because there's camaraderie or
See, oh my god, holy shit. I'm sorry, but Jay Chisel here actually made a better point than like, I don't want to Neve or Jenny. I actually hate that that's actually true. Here's the thing, okay? Here's the fucking thing, okay? I don't mind. Here's the thing, I understand that in a heated debate, you're gonna repeat your claim over and over again, okay? You're gonna repeat your claim over and over again. That's understandable, right? Because you're heated, you've been at this for hours, okay? And I don't blame Neve or Jenny for doing this, because they've been cycling, okay? Like for hours, okay? Like they've been fighting against the horde for hours. I'm sorry, I don't mean to do the horde, okay? But now, after fighting the horde for hours, after they've been fighting the horde for hours, now they're fighting like the final bosses. They're actually fighting the boss fight, okay? The boss fight is like ketamine autism and Yoon, okay? All right, that's what's happening. Rose and Yoon, okay? All right, that's what's happening, okay? And then they call in the assist, okay? They call in the assist. It's fucking Jay Chisel, all right? It's fucking Jay Chisel. And Jay Chisel actually comes in and he's like, wait a second. Argument, supporting point, that's actually an example. The big ass flag, all right? The more you add to it, the less it becomes. The more you add to it, the less it becomes. Oh my god, it actually makes sense. Oh my god, it actually makes sense. So I want to hear what Yoon and Ketamine actually respond. I want to hear how they respond to this, okay?
some sort of like
I don't even
intersectionality in these
remember.
places doesn't mean that we have to conflate it in like aspects of advocacy. Like, you can advocate for LGBTQ rights without advocating for like black rights or whatever, even if LGBTQ spaces are often spaces that are safe for
but
like
part of
black
the
and brown
argument
people.
is over whether or not they're even calling them trans in the first.
And okay, here, I'll even help make the transmedicalist argument here, okay? Is that here's the thing. You know how the flag works? Is that now you have the regular flag, and then you have the flag with all of the like the extra triangles on it, right? Now, because the flag with all the triangles on it becomes the regular flag, now when you have the original flag up, some people might say, wait a second, you have the flag without the triangles up, you are a bigot. You're a bigot for not having the with the flags with the triangles up. You have the original flag. The original flag is outdated. You should have the new flag up, okay? And then you say, and then you continue your point. I feel like this can be conflated with the same, because now we have all of these new gender ideas.
Hey, sorry.
You have all these gender ideas, but now some people only want to support these old transgender things because that's the only thing they understand, and that's how the mainstream people understand it, and that's understandable, right? From an optical point of view. However, now you're adding onto it a bunch of new things that does not make any sense optically, right? And even then, if they cannot keep up to date because they're not like system updating, right? They're not fucking system updating Windows, right? So because they're not system updating Windows, suddenly there's a fucking memory leak. There's a memory leak, and now it's fucking memory leaking. Does that make sense? So because there's a memory leak, now suddenly all of a sudden, the old Windows is being shamed because you have an old system. All right, you have an old system, so you're being shamed for it. Does that make sense? So because you have an old pride flag, you're being shamed for it. You can apply the same concept to gender. That's a way better transmedicalist argument.
Wow, thanks for that.
That's a way better transmedicalist argument. Okay, Jesus. Okay.
First place, so.
Is that the battle lines of this particular argument at this moment? I'm actually
Jenny
not
seems to
completely
think-
sure.
Jenny
They
thinks
keep
that
switching back
non-binary
and
people
forth,
aren't
talking
trans.
past each other so hard right now. Because I keep talking
Yeah.
about the
Yeah, that was
analysis, and then
Foodshops.
other people are talking about like semantically should be grouped group under this umbrella. It's like I don't know. That's sort of
So
like
let's talk
Oh,
about.
so we are doing the cost-benefit analysis. That's what.
Yeah, let's
that's
talk
what we're
about the
doing.
cost-benefit analysis. Let's
We
do
are
that.
doing the
Cost-benefit
cost-benefit analysis.
For who? For who? It's
It's
not a
for
semantic
the
argument
total
if we
of-
don't
the
address that
total
from
of
the
everyone
very
involved.
beginning.
The
No, it's
total
not a
of everyone
semantic
Do you
argument.
guys
if we don't
remember that
address at the very
meme
beginning.
with like
I'm sorry, can I
the
just
flag
ask real
turns into
quick? I thought it
Ohio?
was
Is
the
the Ohio
cost-benefit
flag?
analysis
That's so
of
funny,
colonialism
sorry.
trans. Is that
Ohio
not
flag.
what
Sorry.
you're talking?
Couldn't you literally just say that about trans people during stuff like Stonewall? Yes, you could. Yep. It's a pretty shit argument, honestly.
I mean,
That's a part
it's
of
not
it, yes.
just calling all of them trans, but that's a part of it. Yeah, it's like also just associating them with our goals, like pushing for them at the same time that we're including them as like a major part of the conversation. Like I don't know, when we start to get more specific about what we're actually talking about in terms of like pragmatic considerations, it just becomes clear to me that it's like highly contextual, like what we're arguing for and when. Clearly, there are contexts, like when it's super relevant to talk about just fucking medical, like trans medical issues, right? Clearly that there are contexts where that's like what you should talk about and it's irrelevant and not helpful to bring up like neopronouns or whatever group of people, right? But like in like I just think that there are times where it clearly doesn't have much of a harm and it helps those people. And I don't know why we should actively avoid trying to like, I don't know, grant these people some of the social capital we're trying to accumulate.
The
You know what?
rhetoric,
I can
the rhetoric
concede to
around.
that if
Can I
acknowledge
go?
the fact that you're doing the cost-benefit analysis for non-binary people exclusively
Well,
right
it's
now.
for everyone
And I can
involved.
concede
For everyone
that.
involved,
I
right?
can
It's like
The
concede that.
rhetoric around medical
But if you're
transition is
including
currently
trial-
you don't need dysphoria to be trans, and you don't need to medically transition to be trans. How is that helpful for me? It undermines people's understanding of what it means to be trans. I am taking significant harm as a trans person that I do not think is worth it. And I know your argument is, well, it is worth it. But
Citation needed.
I just don't.
Oh, they called in the assist. It's Emma. It's Emma, my other mod who is a transmedicalist, hardcore transmedicalist, okay, who actually can make arguments. Holy shit, dude. Oh my god, this was such a good panel. I forgot how good of a panel this one was. Holy shit.
I think it is, and I don't think you've made a good case as
Great,
for
now
why
both
that is
of my
or
mods are
why.
here. Fantastic.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean,
What
like,
is up with
if
Foodshops?
there's some way we can try to
going
get
on
more
here?
concrete so I can make the case better, then I can try, I guess. But it's just like I think if we were to do some like robust empirical investigation of the situation, we would find that like the drivers are just not the things that we're concerned about, that we're talking about right now, of transphobic hate and like trans medical issues, right? I think the problem isn't, I don't know, pronouns or like non-binary people or social contagion as much as it's literally like right now they're not even talking about social contagion. They're talking about grooming by parents, like chopping babies' dicks off. Right? That's what they're talking about right now. Science
Yes,
has nothing
absolutely.
to do
That
with
is the
non-
majority of the discussion, like unequivocally. Do you guys even disagree with that? Like,
No,
surely
their
you.
argument, their counter to that
That is a
that
big
that's
chunk of
driven
it.
by non-binary.
That is a big chunk of it. The frequency, you haven't acknowledged that it's the frequency of transness among young people, and where transness is this nebulous concept of self-identity that is causing this huge uptick in the number of trans people that is making people freak the fuck out.
Do you think that the number of binary trans people hasn't also exponentially increased? Because it has.
Not to anywhere
Yes.
near the same level.
Really?
Okay, so I just don't think that additional like growth in the level of people identifying as trans that aren't even getting medical care is like the driver of, is even a like secondary driver of the anti-medical care like legislation, right? That really doesn't seem to be. I think if we
No, it totally is. It totally is, bro. Because if you see, because when Republicans see trans identity is on the rise, like what is the majority of trans identity, right? It's like women in college who are non-binary, right? And it's like if we see like this fucking
that's not who they're
huge,
thinking of, though. That's not who they're thinking of as the main problem.
if they see, well, no, but when they see these numbers and they don't contextualize it, like Yuna's saying, like
it's the good argument here on the anti-transmedicalist side would just be to say, no, they're probably concentrating on fucking drag queen story time at the time, right? It's fucking drag queen story time.
Conservatives are not concerned about women in college, quote unquote, pretending to be trans. Nobody knows what the word they... We're back at the they fab thing again. Nobody gives a shit. No one knows what they fab means. It's incredibly obscure. The term didn't exist until a few years ago. At least as far as I can tell. That's just cope. That's a terminally online argument. Conservatives care about, as they said, drag queen story time. They care about like kids getting surgery and stuff. That's the rhetoric right now. Oh hey Saj, man, chat is full today.
Hey, Rose just said we're watching you do the epic you versus Neve and Jenny Matrix thing again. Rewatching old content.
Whoops.
Okay. I do not toss the word godlike around lightly, okay? I don't toss compliments like that around lightly, okay? I just said godlike in the fucking free-for-all channel, okay? But I don't toss compliments like that lightly.
No, but they see the rise. But they see the rise in the discourse and the amount of people IDing this way, and they don't even care that it's non-binary, and they're not even seeking any medical transition or hormonal transition or anything. They just see there's this number of trans people rising, and they're like non-binary females, and so they just use that as a way to stoke fear about the cutting dicks off and things like that. So yes.
So if non-binary people that aren't actually transitioning to another gender and aren't using hormones are your concern, then why would that be the concern of fucking Republicans who are concerned with kids using hormones?
Because they use that as a basis.
They don't
to say,
care.
See this trans ideology.
Hold on.
They use that as a basis to say, look, the trans ideology is being spread everywhere, and then they fearmonger about the like crazy things. Like the majority, like 7. Hold on. Like it's like with the border. This is exactly like with the border. Like 7 million people have crossed the border in the past 4 years, right? There have been 7 million border encounters. How many of those people are actually bringing over drugs and stuff like that? Like a tiny amount of people are actually bringing drugs and crime over from the people who are immigrating, but they still use the 7 million number to fucking stoke fear about the.
Oh my god! How is Jay making a more coherent point? This is impossible! Like, I'm sorry? I'm sorry? Like, okay. I'm sorry. How is Jay doing a better job? How is Jay doing a better job than Neve and Jenny? Like, what? What?
It's the transmedicalist.
I mean, this is an old panel, right? Like obviously, like things have completely changed,
and yeah, it's still a
etc. Right? But I mean, I'm saying,
okay, let's be real. It's a transmedicalist argument. There are no good transmedicalist arguments. It's broken on a fundamental level. Foodshops said that we're going to see good transmedicalist arguments in this video. We're at an hour and 25 minutes in, out of an hour and 37 minutes. Yeah, this is a pre-recorded stream that Foodshops is going over. Yeah. At the end of this, I'm gonna play my video, which is very short. It's just a minute, where I provide an argument against transmedicalism. And I think it's pretty sound, but we'll see.
Saying the Jay Chisel versus Rose is the real shit that we need. Rose isn't even non-binary, and Jay isn't even transgender, but somehow they can represent the sides way better.
Kinds of the drugs, even though it's like
They
a
can
tiny
always
amount of
tell.
people. It's like the same
But they're
thing.
not using the 7 million number. I've never heard
fuck?
Republicans cite this is the amount of people who identify as trans to like fearmonger about trans people. I've personally never heard that. Maybe it's happened once or twice. The majority of the conversation is about trans children taking.
He doesn't care
like,
as much, so
fucking
you either lose perspective or you're too
surgeries
close to the
and
issue.
hormones to
Maybe.
the opposite sex, and that's what their fear is. Their fear
And
is
how-
not people
Don't you think that's a
identifying
real
as.
disingenuous
When you
Hold on.
take
Okay,
the
hold on. Let me finish. Let me
discord-
finish.
They're
Let me
literally losing their
finish.
rights because of
Let me
stupid
finish.
shit like this.
Let me finish. I'll get to that, Neve.
Okay.
I just want to make this point. Non-binary people who don't transition are less of a threat in conservatives' mind to actual trans people.
Okay, I've been trying to make all of the enemies fight each other to save ammo, and it's not working. We're changing strats.
Can we just acknowledge that?
True.
Yes.
So why are we hand-wringing about non-binary people not being appealing enough to
Well, yeah, so
conservatives
their
when
view-
it's the
their
Hold on,
opposite
it's not
argument?
just
No, it's
it's not just
about
it's not
that.
just it's not just conservatives we're losing support with. We're losing support with every demographic, even with progressive people. And I don't think
Yeah.
the progressive people are losing support for us because of trans children that are transitioning after going to the doctor. They're
think some of them
having
are.
this reaction to no, I don't think the progressive people are. I think the progressive people are seeing the shit that I'm seeing. They're like logging onto fucking Lex and they're seeing 25 people with beards and they're being told, why are you complaining? Gender's not real. It's like it's fucking insane when you're like a progressive person and you want to stand for all the things that actually matter for trans people, and there are people who are unaffected.
Dude, okay. Get Neve and Jenny out of here. The real battle, the real worthy battle, is Emma and Jay versus Rose and Yoon. Okay, alright. This is like... Ah! I don't know what to say!
By the
Yeah, my
fight for
channel's growing
trans
pretty
rights, can we
nice.
all just acknowledge that non-binary people who don't transition, don't take any drugs, are completely unaffected by the fight for trans rights? What's gonna happen?
Saj says, this is not going to sound nice, but I don't see the value for arguing for or against transmeds. I think it has a place. It is a growing movement online. Yeah, it's definitely more important to get trans people healthcare. And transmed arguments are a niche topic. I can definitely grant that. However, I do think it is something worth pushing back against. And it is something that has been growing a lot online. And it's just something I see a lot and something that I've been thinking a lot about. So I feel like I'm positioned to argue against it, at least. Saru says, you need to set up a Discord bot for your YouTube. Yeah, I need to do some automation stuff with regard to my YouTube. That's true.
Then, if our rights get
Thank
taken
you,
away, they're
yes.
fine.
It's not true, obviously.
It's a costume they can take off. It doesn't matter.
Wait, why is it not true, Rose? Why is it not true?
Because when they go into society, they're not looked at the same way that we are.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
we don't experience
socially
the
they
same
are treated
things.
badly. Socially they are treated badly, like in the same way that binary trans people are. Obviously, they don't have all the same medical concerns
No
and things like
fucking-
this, and
not
concerns
even
about
close.
passing. But they do have some of the same social concerns. It's retarded not to acknowledge
Wait,
that,
hold on.
obviously.
Social concerns, sure, but what happens when you misgender somebody who uses neopronouns? You're not causing dysphoria. If these people don't have dysphoria, what fucking happens if I don't call them it-its? They're not even gonna feel like shit. They don't have dysphoria. It's just some fucking fun thing they do.
That's not true. Plenty of people with neopronouns experience dysphoria. We're just like essentializing whole categories of people here.
But no, but they're also just like disregarded and like treated as jokes and like treated as freaks, like in the same way that a lot of binary trans
Because
people
they
are,
like
just
are.
because of their preference.
Wow, could that
Just
be
of their
because it's a little trivial? I don't know. Maybe.
So you're saying that it's like fine when people are mean to them and shitty to them socially because they are cringy to you, is basically what you're saying.
I'm saying
I don't think that
people who are going to spend the whole time in an interaction staring at me or staring at someone else isn't going to be staring at a non-binary person who doesn't have dysphoria for the same fucking reason. They're going to be doing it because their hair is green or because they're wearing a fucking trans flag taped around their shoulders, but not because it's a fucking person who doesn't like conform to gender norms.
I mean,
it's also because it's a person who doesn't conform to gender norms. Again, they'll conflate all of these categories together. It's all the same to conservatives. Gay people, trans people, gender non-conforming people, it's all the same to them. Bickering over the differences between these and who gets to sit in what chair is a waste of time. Conservatives don't care.
sometimes it is going to be because it's a person who doesn't conform to gender norms, right? I mean, not all of them, but there are non-binary people who don't look fucking like they don't clearly look like a woman or man. They actually look androgynous, right? There are non-binary people like that, and they do get shit on for their gender presentation. So I don't know why you'd say that.
Okay.
There are non-binary
Jenny,
people who
can I- hold on.
transition, and those people are transsexuals, and there's no problem with them.
I think we know there's a difference between, I guess, if you want to say transsexuals and non-binary people who do not transition. Like, we all know that there's a difference in struggle. But Jenny, can I just get you on record saying, because I haven't heard you say this, do non-binary people suffer any social consequence whatsoever if they don't transition but are non-binary, and that's somehow visible in their identity?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so on that basis,
I
like,
don't think
surely
their
it may not be the same
identity
experience,
matters.
but there is a shared experience of social rejection. It's not the same experience. Maybe it's not the same in severity or frequency or whatever. But
It's a whole ass spectrum. There are non-binary trans women. There are non-binary trans men. There are binary trans men who don't transition. There are binary trans women who don't transition. There are non-binary people who do transition. Like, it's not hard categories that we can like clearly delineate. It's a gradient between all of these things. We're trying to draw these hard boundaries and say this goes in that box and that goes in this box, and it just doesn't work like that.
Incels also have experience of social rejection.
That's
Should we include them?
It's insulting because it's literally insulting because
Insults are
trans women
different.
who actually absolutely not. It's insulting because trans women who actually like work towards transition, or anyone who's doing that, has to exist in society, go to school, go to work, the way that they look. Like, that is like a no. And then so what if you're you say you're non-binary, someone calls you she or someone calls you he, like, whoa, instead of calling you they or whatever pronoun, like, we want to go near.
I call you and he because it's he day. Okay. Well, listen. I don't. Yun hasn't really corrected me much. Okay.
Pronouns they, whatever. Like, it's not that it's not easy to say. I don't think that they should be misgendered, but you can't tell me that someone calling them not they is the same thing as somebody discriminating against, like, a binary trans person.
Cancelled. Yes.
It may not be
please.
the same
fucking
thing,
way.
but it
No.
may even be. Hold on, I want to make the argument. It may even be worse in some cases, because non-binary people can
No.
experience dysphoria. Hold on, non-binary people can experience dysphoria towards both genders. They.
Wait, hold on. I am non-binary. I experience intense dysphoria. If somebody calls me he, him, or man or something, that gives me dysphoria. So, like, there you go, argument defeated.
Can, not always, but they can.
No.
Can we just acknowledge that?
Can, yeah.
Internally.
No, I'm not going to acknowledge
Yeah,
that. I
but
think
if
it's bullshit.
That's the stupid
Wait, but
fucking
it's
argument.
hold on. It's the same logic that trans people use. You experience dysphoria from one gender to the other. You think it's impossible to do it to both?
The problem with the studies that say that they experience dysphoria for both genders are saying that they have a that they're targeting towards something that is off of the spectrum, which most of us just wouldn't call gender anymore, which means that we wouldn't call this gender dysphoria. It is some other type of it's some other type of identity dysphoria that's going to be very different from what everybody else is talking
So
about.
what would the treatment be for these
It's gender dysphoria.
people then? Like fucking like the equivalent of like gay electric shock therapy, but for non-binary people? Like what would you have people do socially?
Want us to, like, leave them alone and like disregard them in every piece of discourse. Just
It
to
would
be like,
still
oh
be
yeah,
some
those
sort
people
of
they
like
don't
social
You guys can
transition.
have
It
them.
would just be
Okay,
very
no, hold on.
different.
They can do
I think
whatever they
Jenny.
want. I don't even say they're invalid. They're just
Well,
not
but they
trans.
want to do. Okay, well,
I think Jenny straight up doesn't believe in non-binary people. I'm not on that. But my problem is that I think non-binary people and trans people.
Okay, hold on. We'll double check this. Yep, non-binary is not a real thing. Okay, confirmed.
Are like a Venn diagram, and right now they're being treated like a small circle inside of a big circle. There are non-binary people who are transsexuals who need like medication and shit. There are people who you would think are binary transsexuals, but who don't identify all the way as women or men, and that's fine. There's like no problem there. Those people are affected. Those people need rights too. But can we separate out the part of the Venn diagram for non-binary people that isn't like overlapping with trans people? Because I feel like that's most non-binary people. That's most non-binary people.
I don't think there's any problem with like recognizing distinctions and subcategories. I don't think anyone is saying like non-binary people have all the same struggles as binary trans people. Like obviously that's not true, right? It's just that
But then it doesn't make sense to say that
rejecting-
non-binary people are trans. It doesn't make sense to say that they are trans. Some non-binary people are trans.
You said that these are subcategories of the same thing. We're rejecting that idea. We're saying they're not subcategories of the same thing. These are distinct experiences.
It doesn't seem to have anything to do with gender or sex.
Yes.
I literally
Hold
lying
on. So
before
Tom,
I
hold on.
make that distinction.
I don't know what
Holy
studies
shit.
you're referring to, but could you like link those somewhere so I could look at it?
Ooh,
But
your authority is
aside
being
from that, it's odd to me
questioned.
because we all like agree that gender theory is like useful, right? And in our understanding of gender theory, like broadly, we talk about non-binary people as if they exist within a similar construct to the one that binary trans people do. Like this is a completely uncontroversial thing. It's the majority opinion in like all philosophers of gender seem to think this, or not all, sorry, but like most. Like I don't know why it's so controversial right now when we're saying it as if it's like completely incomprehensible that like maybe non-binary people could share some experience that is in common with trans people that is like alienating their gender. I think sometimes you acknowledge it, but it's
You're
very
piggybacking off the idea of gender being a spectrum. When people are non-binary, they exist outside of that spectrum.
I don't
The
necessarily
ambivalence
agree with
that
that.
is
They don't
agreed
have
upon
to. They don't have to at all.
philosophers throughout society is the fact that people can be a mix of both genders naturally because it is a spectrum. People act in the way they act. But when you say that you're not on the gender binary or you exist outside of the fucking spectrum, what the fuck does that mean? You can't lie and tell me that somebody's been talking about that idea for like.
Well, could someone be gender fluid? Like that's possible, right?
Yes, but then they would fall into what I was saying before.
Okay, but I'm just saying it's clear that there are identities that are just distinct in behavior and experience from trans people, binary trans women and men, but they still have like similar struggles. And we're advocating on the basis that these similar struggles give them enough alike. Obviously, Jenny, I know you disagree vehemently with this, but
Hey, no. No. They are categorically the same. Being trans is identifying with the gender, with any gender that is not the one that is associated with the sex that you were assigned at birth. That is it. That's what it means. That is the medically accepted definition by like basically any reputable organization. To reject this is anti-science. It is to stand with Republicans. it is to stand with, like, transphobes. It is just anti-reality. Transmedicalism is anti-science. It is anti-reality. It is the anti-grass-touching ideology. It's just nonsense.
If you'll allow us to lay out the argument a little bit. For one, we have evidence that you don't have to sacrifice
here's
that
the
much
super shotgun.
in order to support non-binary people.
God,
We've made
this level
pretty
was
big
impossible
gains
without
in,
it.
I know we're losing ground a little, like in trans rights in spite, quote unquote, of the non-binary thing. And I would say that has nothing to do with non-binary people. I think that has more to do with like other trans people discomfort with like non-binary people being lumped in and as the same, and they see it as different. But I think conservatives just see trans people as mentally ill and insane across the board.
True.
Like,
Why is there a
Not
loss of
mentally ill.
ground?
Okay,
Why
I
is there
think if we're
losing
not
ground?
being mentally ill and we're being pragmatic, then we wouldn't form allegiances based on fucking trauma. Why are we trauma bonding?
We're not. It's not solely trauma, though.
coalitions?
It's not solely
Isn't that what you're
trauma.
implying by experience?
Yeah, he's like, okay, yeah, like, no, yeah, just, it just seems like to me that he was like out for league for this one. I don't know. You know what I mean? Listen, which is, it's okay, it's all right, okay, but it's okay. Like there, I think there's a difference between like making an argument versus you know, sort of just saying, oh yeah, you're trauma bonding. I don't know. It's like, man, like what the heck, like bro, like it's trauma bonding. Like no, like how? Here's the thing. You can say that it's trauma bonding, but like how, right? How? I think it's fine to say, to put a name on it, put a label on it, right? But what's the supporting thing, right? What's the thing? You know, what's the thing?
It's a mean
Right?
trap.
There are two things people universally hate. I am like you and I understand you, and you don't. You are like me and I understand you, and I don't. You know what I think? I think I need to go to bed, okay? Alright? We can't watch this entire thing, but, you know, it's just to relive some of the good times, okay, that we had, alright? Listen, you know what we need to do? Alright, I think for the next panel, we need to have another drama panel again, okay? We need to have another fucking drama panel again. That's what we need to do.
Oh, is that it? Oh, thank God. Oh, Saj, do you have me on Discord? Send me a link on there. I didn't see whatever you sent. Let's see if I can find you on there. I sent you a DM. The insult to trans pipeline and inside Mari. Okay, this is an hour, so we'll react to this next time. This is for next stream. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll definitely do this one next stream. Okay, so Foodshops promised some good anti-transmed arguments, and I think we got a couple. But we were kind of beating around the bush on that panel debate thing. We didn't really address the issue head on. And it seems like Foodshops doesn't really understand what transmedicalism is. They seem to think it means when a person goes to the doctor. I'm not really sure if they know what they're talking about, but we're just gonna take a look at this. Transmedicalism is philosophically untenable. Transmedicalism. Hold on, we'll restart that because I was talking over myself. Transmedicalism is philosophically untenable. Transmedicalism is the belief that having dysphoria is what makes you trans. This is broken for two reasons. The first is that cis people can experience dysphoria. Consider the small but real number of detransitioners who regret surgery, or cis male prisoners who are forced to present as women as a form of torture. In these cases, the mental distress they experience, the incongruence between their internal identity and their external treatment, is gender dysphoria. The second reason is more glaring and obvious. Transmedicalists love to gatekeep. Someone isn't really trans until they get this medical diagnosis or that surgical intervention. But what happens when someone jumps through all these hoops, when they fully transition and no longer experience dysphoria? Do they stop being trans? Keffels doesn't experience gender dysphoria. Is Keffels a trans woman? The transmedicalist doctrine would answer no. But then what is she? A cis woman? No sane person would say this with a straight face. This is why transmedicalism is philosophically untenable. So there we go. I think that's a pretty sound argument. It attacks the premise at its most basic level. You need dysphoria to be trans. Well, first of all, cis people can have dysphoria, so that's already problematic. But second of all, a person who is fully transitioned as a transmedicalist would like can not experience dysphoria and suddenly, according to their definition, stop being trans. So they would revert back to being a cis person again. So really, according to transmeds, nobody is trans. There's no such thing as being trans. As I said, it's a nonsense ideology. And that's it. That's all. We're done. That's the stream, folks. I hope you had a good one. I'm looking forward to the video that Saj sent. We'll check that out next time. And I hope you all have a good night.